Good morning and welcome to the daily cyber briefing for Monday, the 4th of November. I'm Stephen Ridgway. Um, there is new ransomware targeting FreeBSD servers. As I'm sure we're all aware, the majority of malware targets Windows servers. There is an increasing amount that targets Mac and various flavors of mobile device, iOS and Android. Other operating systems have generally been seen as not worth the effort in the past. The effort of creating and developing and targeting other operating systems the effort is outweighing the potential value of doing so. However, there are other operating systems out there that are, whilst not commonly used, they are frequently used, and actually some of these are very good operating systems, and with a focus on security or stability or compatibility or whatever. And the BSD series of operating systems kind of falls into that category. In fact, if I remember rightly, MacOS is developed off a branch of, I think it could well be FreeBSD. So this particular piece of malware has been named Interlock and is being aimed at organizations worldwide. It's a typical piece of ransomware that it will aim to encrypt systems, the usual sort of stuff. Now, the article in Bleeping Computer has got some quite good indicators of compromise there, so stuff to look out for, and a pretty decent write-up of what you're likely to see if you get hit by this thing. So it is rare, but definitely out there, and definitely if you are using BSD, it is worth being aware of the fact that this has been modified from ransomware that works on other more common operating systems, but you're not immune. It does get picked up by VirusTotal, so you would expect that the majority of antivirus or endpoint protection solutions will be triggered by it, but equally, a lot of organisations don't run much, if anything, in the way of endpoint protection on BSD servers. So definitely something to be aware of. It's distributed as an ELF file, interlock.elf. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for, and something to be aware of. So, yes, okay, I'm sure if you're running, in fact, if you are running FreeBSD, could almost guarantee that you are pretty cyber literate. But just bear in mind that, just as a reminder, you're not immune to this sort of stuff. Data exfiltration and encryption on these more unusual operating systems does exist. So there's an article in Cybersecurity News this morning that talks about the fact that Russia and China have noticeably increased cyber attacks on Dutch infrastructure. Well, we're based in the UK, but the UK is geographically in Europe and politically aligned, with other Western nations. So, this is stuff that we need to be aware of. Russia and China have got agendas that are not wholly friendly to any Western nations. So if they're targeting Dutch infrastructure, they're probably either doing or considering doing the same to other Western nations as well. So this is worth being aware of. It looks like one of the reasons for this is to enable disruption later on. Certain amount of espionage, but sabotage, or the potential for being able, preparations for future sabotage, is definitely part of the modus operandi of these groups, and we were aware of this especially from Chinese APTs for a very long time. That they want access to things, and then will lurk, because right now there is no reason for them to do anything, but they want to be able to, should that reason, should the goodness me, I'm struggling with words this morning. It must be Monday. Oh, it is. Should the need arise. Now, what we've also got to bear in mind is that it does seem that the lines between state actors, state-sponsored actors, and criminal groups is somewhat blurred in both Russian and Chinese operations. So quite clearly, you don't get to do any of this stuff out of China unless you've got pretty explicit permission from the Chinese authorities. So that isn't that much of a surprise. The boundaries between what's kind of private criminal group and what's nation state is it's not really very clear, but you can be absolutely certain that it wouldn't be going on if the Chinese authorities didn't know about it and weren't supporting it. Russia, I think, is much more willing to permit groups to do stuff, so long as that stuff is aligned with broad strategy. So bear in mind that not all of this stuff is directly being executed by state agencies. Some of it is kind of subbed out to other groups, which again will be behaving according to whatever their particular objectives are. But if they're in line with state objectives, then you can expect them to be supported one way or another. And also, on the subject of state-sponsored actions, Microsoft has been warning of major credential theft by Chinese groups via covert network attacks. Now, Covert Network 1658. I don't know who comes up with the names of these things, but this particular it's a collection of compromised devices. A lot of them are TP-Link devices. They're used as a significant botnet for attempting all sorts of nefarious stuff. Something that we've been seeing, something that, this article is based on, but also we've been seeing as well, is that attacks will use an increasingly large number of devices from a botnet, but each fewer times. And I think the logic from an attacker's perspective is that most security visibility tooling has got rules that trigger if you see multiple failed login attempts from a specific device. There's rape stuff there, and blah blah blah. But one of the ways is not foolproof, but one of the ways that you can reduce the effectiveness of this sort of password spraying attacks is one of the ways in which you can improve the effectiveness is by sending fewer attempts from each device. So instead of being millions of attempted logins from a few hundred devices, you get a few tens of attempts, or fewer even, from thousands of devices. It makes it much harder to, from a defender's perspective, to firstly to spot, because a lot of the automated alerting isn't set up to work like that. We've all seen the fact that you get the odd failed login. Sometimes it's internal people, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it might be an indicator that you're under attack. The majority of times it's perfectly legitimate stuff. People have just forgotten their passwords or got fat fingers or whatever it might be. The rules tend to say, well, if that happens more than a few times from a single device, that could well be an indication that somebody is trying to brute force that device. Well, this particular approach gets around that by saying, well, okay, there will only ever be a handful of failed attempts from any one device. The other side of it is that there's often alerting on the other side that says if you get, regardless of where they come from, if you get many failed logon attempts to a particular device, that might be an indicator of attack. It becomes more difficult to separate out stuff which is just the general malicious bot activity on the internet, which is a surprisingly large amount of the traffic on the internet, from something which is much more targeted on you. So definitely worth having a read of this article from Information Security Buzz if you're interested in this stuff. I don't think it would be difficult to modify existing rules if you haven't got rules that catch these sorts of things. I think having seen a write-up of how this works and what it does, even at a high level, it would be fairly straightforward to create things that will catch this stuff. Right. Well,